What up, everybody? This is Kyle, and you are listening to and watching Knockouts and Three Counts. And after further thought, the name's going to stay after the bell. We had it first. So firstly, I'm going to start with AEW since AEW was the one I watched first. Great six-man match to start the show with Dustin and the Young Bucks versus Sammy Guevara and Santana and Ortiz. They had an absolute awesome match. In my opinion, I've always liked six-man tags, at least when they're kept competitive, and I really liked that match. It was kind of cool to see Dustin come out with the Young Bucks-inspired gear and all that kind of stuff. Crazy spots in it, and just a very high-paced, high-action match. All in all, big fan of what I saw there. Also, you had Trent Beretta versus Rey Fenix. I've really been impressed with what they've been doing with Trent Beretta. Well, it's not Trent Beretta. Trent, excuse me. Trent has been around for years, and it seems like they're giving him a little bit of a, a come up on the singles end, since he's known mainly for his tag team work as part of the Best Friends. Great match between he and Phoenix. He didn't get the W on there, but he's had a couple of big wins. He beat Pentagon. I'm really interested to see what they do with him and see if they continue to integrate the tag team guys as a integrate them into the singles too. Speaking of Pentagon, we also had a match between Pentagon and Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels obviously trying to get some get back after the attack on SCU by Pentagon and Phoenix. There were a few botches in that match, but I've been a big fan of Christopher Daniels for a long time, and I've gone on record as saying this on the show, and I'll go on record saying it here. Pentagon can wrestle, whether it's tag team, singles, doesn't matter. I think Pentagon could very well be an AEW champion at some point. We also had Cody come out and cut a promo, which Cody has been on absolute fire with the promos he's been cutting, the matches he's been having. He came out, called out MJF, offered to throw him anything that MJF wanted so that MJF would have the match, saying that he needed to have the match. Again, another fire promo by Cody. I'm really interested to see what they do with MJF and Cody, to see how this plays out, what's going to happen with it, where we go from here with this, because obviously, if you guys watched Full Gear, Cody said that if he loses the match, that he would be that he wouldn't be able to challenge for the AEW title again. So I don't know if that's going to get mixed in there or what exactly will happen with that. But again, in my opinion, another fire promo by Cody, and it'll be interesting to see what MJF and his bodyguard Warlord have to say in retort to that. They're building Nyla Rose back up as a killer. As I said, I don't know quite how to feel with that so far. I don't know, man. It just seems off because she's so much bigger than her opponents, but she definitely made a statement, not only beating the hell out of Shanna, and she powerbombed the ref, and now AEW said they've suspended her indefinitely. I don't know what's to come out of that, but we'll see what happens in the coming weeks with that. Speaking of the women's division, Chris Statlander. She's only 3 years in the game, came out of Creative Pro Wrestling with Kurt Hawkins and the guys up there in New York. Great match with her. Great match for her. Great showing. She tried to stand up against Brandy Rhodes and Awesome Kong when they came out, and Brandy Rhodes and Awesome Kong now have explained the reasoning for why they're doing things, and gave Chris Statlander the opportunity to pledge to them, at which time a fan, which obviously I'm sure was another wrestler, a fan begged to be able to pledge to Kong and Brandy, and then they cut her hair. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of that, man. I like it. It's a different look. It's a different look for Brandy. I don't know how they're going to do that, and it's a little different look for Kong, but again, we've said this on the show multiple times if you listen to us, which if you haven't watched us and this is the first time you're checking us out, make sure you check us out. Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, anywhere you watch your podcast, listen to podcasts, you can find us. I'm a big fan of Awesome Kong, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. You're going to see her with that women's title. With that being said, Jericho came out, cut a promo saying with the, he's not calling it the List of Jericho anymore, the Lexicon of Les Champions, and he named all the names of who he wouldn't face, coming up in AEW. He made it very clear, saying Jon Moxley multiple times that he didn't want to face him, and mainly a lot of the names that we've seen him face, already. And he was answered by the Jurassic Express, which you can check out all of our interviews with them from StarCast. There's interviews with Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Marco Stunt, all on our YouTube, Knockouts and 3 Counts. Make sure you subscribe. But they came out, called him out. He said he wouldn't face Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy told Jericho he wanted it. They got in a fight. Brawl ensued. We'll see December 18th what happens when Jungle Boy and Jericho square off. With that being said, then you had the main event, which was Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela. Again, there were a couple mishaps in that match, but all in all, man, how can you not be a fan of Joey Janela? Joey Janela goes for it every time he's out there, always trying some crazy shit. And Jon Moxley's been on a run, dude. As I said on the show a couple weeks ago, I think it's clear at this point. Jon Moxley is on a one-way trip towards the AEW title. I don't know when that'll be, but they're pushing him to the top, and I'm glad that he's going to get up there, because with the the deathmatch style matches and things like that, I didn't want to see him get pigeonholed, but I mean, it's clear that he's headed up towards the title now. Jericho showed up after his match, after getting his win against Joey Janela. We're going to have to wait and see what happens in the coming weeks. One of the big things I noticed all throughout the show, though, is that the sound just seemed weird. Like during the opening 6-man, you couldn't really hear it, and it sounded like maybe the mics on the ring were off or something wasn't right, because the sound just sounded weird throughout the show. Definitely some technical difficulties there. Let's see if they correct those in the next week. I'm sure that was just a, technical difficulty. All in all, though, decent show by AEW. I'm most excited to see what's going to happen with Jon Moxley and Jericho, as well as I like the Lucha Brothers kind of going heel. And again, with the new faces that we're seeing in the women's division, I'm interested to see what happens there. And with Cody, directly after his promo, we saw, the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, Allie being the one behind the Butcher and the Blade. I don't know where they're going to go with that. Pretty cool team. I don't know where we go with that. I think a match between maybe them and the Dark Order would be really interesting. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. Like I said, you can check us out anywhere you find your podcast. Comment below. Let us know what you're thinking. And make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at KO3CPod. And on the NXT side of the things, man, we had quite the more action-packed show. I mean, both shows were great tonight. I would say out of the two of them, I personally enjoyed NXT maybe a little bit more. They started the show off with a great match between Killian Dane and Pete Dunne, which with two guys like that, the match can't be anything but hard-hitting. So, in my opinion, great match and good finish, too, with, Pete Dunne having the rear naked choke in, and then Dane climbing to the second rope and then just jumping off and essentially crushing Pete Dunne and getting the win. That's a big win for Killian Dane. I don't know if they're going to continue their feud or where they go from here, but it was a great match to start the show. and pretty long match. Like I said, I'm a big fan of seeing good matches like that when they're competitive. Like I said, great way to start the show. From there, you had the Undisputed Era come out, and they called out Finn Balor, saying that they wanted answers for Finn's actions when Adam Cole, you know, was essentially trying to make him a part of the Undisputed Era. To which he didn't get Finn Balor, but he got Keith Lee. Keith Lee did a pretty good job of fighting off the Undisputed Era until the numbers kind of got to him a little bit, and then we saw Tommaso Ciampa then come out to come help him, which then set the stage for the main event for that match, in which it was a six-man tag between Undisputed Era and Keith Lee, Dominik Dijakovic, and Keith Lee. Or, yeah, Keith Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, and Dijakovic. Great way to set that up. I like what we saw there. And again, another action-packed spot. From there, we saw Shayna Baszler versus... Xia Li. And that was pretty decent match. I mean, nothing too big to write home about, but with Xia Li getting in that match, man, it's good to see her get some TV time and get a little bit of work in. I definitely think she's going to be one of the people that they are going to lean on going forward in the future for their women's division. A little bit later on after that, we saw Dakota Kai, you know, who had a promo in the back, and they essentially wanted her to explain her actions for what she did at War Games. For those of you who didn't watch War Games, Kai turned on her longtime partner Tegan Nox and destroyed her knee and put Rhea Ripley's team at a very big disadvantage. Put them in a very big disadvantage going into War Games, even though they were still able to come out victorious. It was supposed to be Rhea Ripley versus Dakota Kai, but Rhea Ripley came out to let Dakota Kai know that she had set her up in the same way Dakota Kai had set up Ripley's team when Mia Yim came out to come get her some, at which time we saw Shayna Baszler come out with Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke. They came out, you know, to come jump Rhea, which Shayna then let us know that it's going to be her versus Rhea Ripley on December 18th. Now, for those of you who watched AEW last night, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, December 18th seems to be a big night on both sides, as we heard that it'll be Jungle Boy versus Jericho. And now we know on the NXT side, NXT is stacking the deck on their side with, now you have Shayna Baszler versus Rhea Ripley, and with what I'll get to in the end of the video, which is going to be a huge main event for that show. Another huge thing that we saw in NXT, which is great for us, for those of you who listen to our show that we had on Tuesday with WWN Live announcer Trevin Adams, you know, we talked about Evolve 141, which is going to be this Friday. Tomorrow, when you see this, from the Knights of Columbus, Livonia, Michigan, going to be a great card. We saw a couple members of the Skulk. We saw Adrian Alanis and we saw Leon Ruff go against the Forgotten Sons. Now, they didn't get to really show a whole lot in that match, but it was great to see some of the stars of Evolve, guys that we see here a lot here in Michigan when Evolve comes to town, do their thing. For those of you that don't know, Leon Ruff and Alanis have the FIP tag team titles, like our guest last night spoke about, and they're doing big things. And also, Leon Ruff was half of the Evolve tag team champions with AR Fox. So it's good to see them on there, and I know there were a couple other people from Evolve there, which, again, I love the fact that they are being incorporated, even if it's only in a little way, with NXT to show that WWE is, you know, showing some love to Evolve in the same way Evolve, you know, is helping NXT by getting some of their guys some work on their shows. From there, you had Finn Balor cut a promo on Adam Cole, saying that he's coming for the championship. And like I said, I'm really excited to see what's going to come out of this. I hope that we see a speedy recovery for Bobby Fish, as when they came out in the beginning of the show, it was only Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and Roderick Strong, because Bobby Fish apparently has been injured. Hopefully speedy recovery for him. From there, another thing that really stuck out to me on this show, we had Kushida's return, which Kushida is a joy to watch in the ring. We got to see him again here at Evolve, at the last Evolve show, and got to meet the guy. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. Ring the bell, Devin. That being said, it was supposed to be Kushida versus Raul Mendoza. As Mendoza was making his way to the ring, Cameron Grimes came out of nowhere with the double stomp, lays out Kushida, and they had a barn burner of a match in that and of itself. As a whole, I would say, like, as I mentioned, I personally enjoyed the NXT show more than AEW this week. Both shows were solid, but I just felt like there was a little more excitement to NXT this week. And the way that they ended the show with a 6-man, and then having Finn Balor insert himself in that match, hit a drop kick, which took out the referee, and all those things. Keith Lee getting the win, pinning Adam Cole, getting a win over the NXT champion, and William Regal coming out to announce that on December 18th, it will be Tommaso Ciampa versus Finn Balor versus Keith Lee to see who's going to be the next one in line to face Adam Cole. All in all, man, I thought it was a good show by NXT as a whole, and I'm really interested to see where they're going to go, like I said, with the Dakota Kai thing. More importantly, I don't know if it's just going to be her and Mia Yim. Hopefully, Tegan Nox won't be out of action for too long. I mean, obviously, she took a brutal beating at War Games and got her knee pretty banged up by Dakota Kai. Hopefully, we can see her come back and get a little bit of retribution on her former partner as part of Team Kick. That being said, man, it was another match on that show. It didn't have too much build to it, but it was also announced in here that you're going to have another Worlds Collide event. And in this Worlds Collide event, it's going to be NXT UK versus NXT. Cassius Ohno returned to NXT to face Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle again became out victorious and is now 4-0 against Cassius Ohno. The idea of NXT UK versus NXT is a good one, because I'm a big fan of both shows. It's going to be interesting to see what some of the matchups will be, especially considering all the NXT UK talent that has now come over to NXT. You've got Pete Dunne. You've got Cassius Ohno is over there in NXT UK now. You got Rhea Ripley is over in NXT. It'll be interesting to see how they do those matches and to see where things go with that. All in all, like I said, good match. Not a whole lot really behind it, but I'm really excited to see what happens on this December 18th show, just with the two matches that we have announced so far, with the triple threat and Shayna versus Rhea. I mean, it's shaping up to be big. I don't know what the big deal is with the 18th show. I don't know if it's because it's the week before Christmas. Either way, December 18th is making out to be quite the big show. As a whole, like I said, I would say NXT was the better one this week, but stay tuned. Like I said, if you're in the area tomorrow night, December 6th, make sure you're at Evolve 141. Come say what's up to me. I know Mikey from Breaking Down the Ring will be there, and stay tuned. You never know what kind of content we could be bringing you from Evolve. You never know. We could be getting interviews with some of the guys backstage. just stay tuned. You got to check us out at KO3C Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and on YouTube. Knockouts and 3 Counts on YouTube. All of our stuff will be there. And as always, you can always find us at Knockouts and 3 Counts Podcast on Facebook. So with that being said, man, that was my thoughts on NXT. And I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Again, hit us up on our social media. Let us know what you're thinking. And it's been confirmed. Next week, we will be bringing the Weapon of Ass Destruction. Thick-thighed, one-eyed, Double D Rose will be on the show with us. So that's going to be an action-packed episode you don't want to miss as well. Make sure you check that out. And until next Tuesday, we'll see you guys soon. Peace.